Welcome to the live stream. Today, we're going over some government job questions, USAJobs.gov, anything pertaining to government jobs in order to help move you closer to getting a government job. Now, the way that this is going to work is I'm going to answer some previously submitted questions, and then I'll look in the live chat and see if there are any questions there. So let's go to the first one from Miss T, who asks, what kind of things on a credit report will disqualify a candidate from getting hired? Okay, so when you receive a tentative job offer, oftentimes they will give you plenty of paperwork to fill out. One of the pieces of paper that you have to fill out is a consent to have a credit check done on you. And I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. So as you can see here, oh, that is the wrong one. All right, so just give me a few seconds to pull that up. But let's talk more about the credit check. With the credit check, that doesn't mean that you have to have a particular score. They're not looking for a 500 score or a 600 score. They're mainly looking to see if you have anything in collections. And if you do have something in collections, is there a structured payment plan? If there is a structured payment plan, then you're going to be okay. And okay, I have it pulled up now. This is an example on how a consent to credit check would look like. This is from the VA. So you see highlighted in yellow, it says this information may be disclosed to other federal agencies. So that is a possibility, also something that you want to keep in mind. And then in the bottom, it says this authorization is valid for 5 years. So they're able to pull your credit. Not that they're going to be doing it multiple times, but they do have the ability to do it for up to 5 years or upon the termination of your employment agreement with that agency. So you will have to fill something like this out, submit it. Every agency has their own format, and they will do a credit check on you. Now, with the debt issues, they're more severe when you're looking for a higher clearance. So if you have a job that requires a top secret or a high risk type position, they're going to be a little more picky. They're going to look at your credit and your debt to income ratio, your credit to income ratio. They'll look at all of that. And it comes down to making sure that you're not able to be blackmailed. They don't want federal employees to be in a situation where they're vulnerable, where they're susceptible to bribes. So that's where this whole thing comes into play. But for the majority of people, as long as you're making payments, as long as you're on a structured payment plan, it shouldn't be a big deal. All right, let's move on to the next question from Josh M8063, who asked, what agency has the best work environment and culture? So this is a question that I'm often asked. And the first thing that I point to when answering this is I tell them to go to the ranking list. And the ranking list looks like this. This just came out a month ago. I made a video on it. And if you scroll down, you will see the top agencies. Now, this is broken into many categories. What you're seeing currently, this is overall. So overall, for large agencies, you see NASA's on there. Number 2 is HHS, Health and Human Services. Number 3 is Intelligent Community. And you can also see what they scored last year. So if there's been an improvement, even though NASA's number 1, they kind of went down a little bit from last year or from 2021. You can click and look at it based on agency's size. Another thing you can do, let's take a look at NASA, who's number 1. The very first ranking is engagement and satisfaction score. So that's like the total. But if you want to get more nuanced and you want to say, well, how is their pay? Well, look at their pay. Their pay is 1 out of 16. That's not bad. Look at their teamwork. Teamwork is 1 out of 16. And you can look at their weak area. Where is NASA the weakest? And you can see it's work-life balance. But it's a number 2 out of 17, so another strong score. But when you're looking at the ranking list, another thing that you have to consider is that agencies are huge. And even though someone has a high ranking or a low ranking, it's going to come down to your supervisor. What is your relationship with your supervisor? What is the personality with your supervisor? If you have a toxic supervisor in an amazing agency, that's not going to work out for you. So during the interview, you're able to identify Who will I be? You can ask the question, who does this position report to? And if the person on there says they report to me, look at that individual and try to do an evaluation to see if you would actually get along with that person, if you want to work for that person. Now, if you don't have any job and you're desperate to get into the government, then you're going to have to accept it probably. But if you have multiple job offers, you can be selective on who do you want to work for and who your future supervisor will be. So that's what I would tell you. All right. Next question is from Triscan5937, who asked, hired on as a low GS rank, how would you move up the GS pay scale faster starting at such a low point? Okay, I don't know what point you started at, but I'll go ahead and show you the pay chart. This is the pay chart for Washington, D.C. And we can just look at it and we can tell that if you're at a low GS grade, let's say you're at 5, how do you move up from 5? It's quite simple. Regardless of what your position, if you have already reached your full performance level or your full promotion level in that position, you have to apply to another position. And what most people do is they look for internal opportunities. That makes sense because you have a preference. If the job announcement is listed for internal hires, that's going to give you an edge. So you can do that. Or you can also look at outside agencies. But you have to apply. After 12 months, you're eligible. If you're staying there, if you're a GS5 and you know that you should be at the GS11 level, there doesn't exist the thing of loyalty to the agency where it looks bad after you move out. If you move out 12, 18, 24 months later, nobody is holding grudges. You're not going to be on a blacklist. So if you find yourself in a GS5 or a GS6 position, right, then after 12 or at the latest 18 months, apply for the GS7. And with a lot of the administrative jobs, they skip 8. You skip 8, you skip 10. So you go from 7 to 9, from 9 to 11, which means if you're at a GS7, it only takes 2 years, technically. The shortest amount of time is 2 years to make it to an 11. And that is, you can see it right here, $53,000 for a 7, $78,000 for an 11. So you're talking about a $20,000 a year difference. That could be pretty huge. So my first advice with that is do not accept a lower GS grade because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Blueface has a question. Let's put that up. Tentative job offers from the same department. I let one of the HR workers know what happens next. I don't understand this question, but if you do receive a tentative job offer from the same department, you're going to have to reach out to HR at a particular point, right? When you get the tentative job offer, the HR contact who extended the offer, you would inform them, you're going to have to provide your SF50. It's going to show that you work at that agency. So they're going to be able to get you situated with your paperwork. But yeah, this is something that happens all the time. Let's see what else we have. Blueface, same situation, taking much longer. Oh, here we go. I missed you, Bobcat. Let me get you, Bobcat. I'm still waiting on my firm job offer from the VA. Is it normal for a credentialing process to take forever? This is very dependent. People have waited on the short end. Ideally it's a week or two, right? 2 or 3 weeks and it should be done. But there are times where it takes months. There's a time it took 3 or 4 months from the tentative job offer to the final job offer. So it comes back to what's going on with HR. Are they fully staffed? Are they overwhelmed? Should they have more people? Are they being proactive? And then it comes to the security team. Usually if it's for the same agency, if it is the same risk position, it really shouldn't take. They shouldn't do another background check unless you're going for a higher. If you're in a medium risk and you're going to a high risk, maybe another background check is required. But if it's the same agency at the same risk level, that background check should just transfer over. You're just essentially waiting for HR at this point. All right. Thank you, Dixon. Dixon said, thank you for your service. Thank you. Dixon, what type of equip errors are commonly a choke point? So with equip, a lot of this is based on the level of clearance. So top secret is going to be different than secret. In top secret, if there's any inconsistencies. So in my own experience, if they mark, do you have any foreign associates? And they see I just visited Bolivia a couple of years ago, and they're like, "Where did you stay?" I said, "I stayed at my aunt's house." "Oh, you have family in Bolivia, so you do have known associates." So when you're marking down inconsistencies, or if they're not able to reach the majority of the contacts that you posted on there, it could raise a red flag. This is more so the case when it comes to top secret clearances. With a clearance, with a secret clearance, it will not be as intensive. So yeah, it's a pain going through that whole security process. Over 100 pages on an SF-85 or SF-86. That's a pain. All right. Turtle Power says, "Can you please explain how a grade promotion works and provide an example?" It can work one or two different ways. The first way is you're in a position that is a ladder. So let's say you accept a job offer for a GS6 through GS9. In that case, every 12 months, you are eligible for the next GS grade. It doesn't mean that you're going to get it. The supervisor, your supervisor, would be the gatekeeper. So it would come down to your performance evaluation, your appraisal. And in this situation, the best thing that you can do when you get into a job like this is ask your supervisor when you sit down, "Hey, my intention is 12 months from now, I want that GS promotion. What do I have to do to ensure that?" And have them lay out a roadmap where there's clear milestones or objectives. And that way, when you hit them all, there's no reason why you will not get that promotion. So in that way, the GS6 to GS9 or GS11, every 12 months, you're eligible and you could get promoted. Then you have positions, which is probably over half of them, where they're already at their full promotion level. Meaning, if you accept a GS12, you can't go anywhere. It's just a GS12. So you can stay there as long as you'd like. You could stay there 1 year or 20 years. It is on you after 12 months to start applying to another position. You don't have to do it at the 12-month mark. I'm just saying at the 12-month mark, you're eligible. You can do it at the 18 or the 24, whatever you feel comfortable with. But you, at a certain point, you're going to have to start looking for GS13 jobs. And that point starts at 12 months and it ends whenever it can go on for years and years and years. You're the one who has to make that determination. And then if it's in the same agency, sometimes it's a little easier if you're going to an outside agency. So you're going from the, let's say, Department of Labor to the Department of Agriculture. You would think the systems talk to each other, but you would be wrong because you're going to have to fill out a lot of the same type of paperwork when you're onboarding. Even though you're a federal employee already, you still have to fill out a lot of that same paperwork. So it's a pain. Another question from Manita Berry. "I am 2 weeks into a GS11 9, so a GS11 step 9 position. Can I apply right now to a GS12 or 13 at another agency? Will I be able to negotiate?" Okay, so yes and no. You cannot do that if you're relying on your government experience. If you are relying on previous experience that's not affiliated with the government, you can apply to open to the public positions. Or if you have another hiring path, you can apply to those jobs using previous experience. But the 2 weeks that you're in as a GS11, you would not be able to use that experience because then time and grade would come into effect. So once you are a federal employee, you are not able to negotiate your step level. You would have to break service for 90 days. So let's say you quit the government. You quit the government, 90 days later, you come back into the government, then HR has the ability, that agency has the ability to negotiate your step level. So that's something to consider. All right. Let's go back to the questions. Also, with the promotion, when you talk about promotion or you're looking for different jobs, a lot of times you do not have to stick with the job series that you're currently at. For example, there was one person that I spoke with. They were a 0560. That's a budget analyst. They went from a budget analyst into the 0343 series, which is a management or program analyst. They both have the word analyst in there. A lot of the duties and responsibilities, they matched. They crossed over in this particular case. So this person was able to get a promotion, meaning they went from GS9 to GS11. They were a GS9 budget analyst, and they went to a GS11 program analyst. So, and the same thing can be done. Say you're a program analyst, right? But you have experience training others. Maybe you trained other analysts. You could then apply for a 1700, which is an instructor or a trainer. So just because you have spent years in one job series, you don't have to stay there. If your experience is relevant, you can actually apply to others. So, you have to be aware of what job series you're actually eligible for. Something to consider. All right. I think we have another question. CB Grizz, is it more challenging to be hired for an overseas position? I get referred, just no interviews as of yet. Is it easier and cheaper to hire folks already in the country? It can be, especially if the agency is trying to use relocation. If they're using relocation expenses as an incentive, it would be cheaper for them to do it within the country. Now, when you're talking about overseas positions, there's two main agencies that we're talking about. We're usually talking about Department of Defense and then Department of State. Department of Defense, a lot of times when soldiers go overseas and they're married, their spouse tries to get in. So we're looking at countries Italy, Germany, Japan, those type of countries where you have military installations. You're going to be competing with a few dozen spouses at the minimum. They're going to be trying to get that position, and they don't need relocation. So you can still apply for them. It's going to come down, like in every other position, to your resume and how well you interview, provided that you receive interviews. It can be competitive. If it's a less desirable country, maybe it might be less competitive. But I would go on to USAJobs.gov. It all starts with creating that filter. Look at the countries that you're interested in. Look at what's available. What job series are they hurting for? For DoD, a lot of them, I mean, they want IT. 2210, you'd be able to find a job. Also business, 1102, contracting, those people, they have them there. And then you're going to have teachers, because in every military installation, there's a school. Maybe you could do curriculum development. So you have to open up and expand what you're willing to accept if you really want to get to overseas. But if you want it, you can get it. You just have to be persistent with it. All right. Okay. So, Aliyah Jones, thank you for hosting this live. You're welcome. Question is, how long is it before you're eligible for the federal service hiring path? So, there's three services. There's competitive, accepted, and senior executive. When you're getting into the government, if you're in the accepted service, you're not going to have preference. For competitive service jobs. So you're never going to receive what they call tenure. To get tenure, you need 3 years in the competitive service. And then after those 3 years, you would be eligible. If you were to leave the government and come back in, then you would be able to apply under the competitive service, because you would be a tenured, permanent competitive service employee. You can still do it if you're under conditional competitive service. You can still apply for those type of jobs. But if you want a clean cut answer, I would just say 3 years. I would aim at 3 years, become a permanent competitive service employee, and then that would open you up. All right. And another question, God's favor. Why does it seem like you have to jump through several hoops in order to get jobs that are plentiful? For example, customer service and IRS positions. I sympathize and empathize with your pain. There are a lot of hoops to go through. I would say that if you're in the public, if you're looking at open to the public jobs, they're going to make you jump through hoops. The only time where it could be streamlined and a little bit easier is if you're using a particular hiring path, a special hiring path like Schedule A, where you're directly talking with a coordinator and they can help you out better. Also with veterans, if you're a veteran, you can talk to a veteran coordinator, and every agency has one. And you can try to get in under non-competitive appointment. But it's still going to be, there's still hoops there. It's a very, there's a lot of layers to the process, and they can be very confusing. So the main thing to remember is to be persistent with it. Do not take the rejections personal. You can easily be rejected for a GS-11, and you can be qualified for a 13. And if you keep going 3 or 4 months later, you get your GS-13. That has happened. People have a range when they're applying. Say, I'm going to look for everything GS11 through GS13. And they get rejected for GS11, same job series. But for 13, they get the job offer. So stay persistent. Try not to take the rejections too personal. Okay, another question. Blueface, HR has promised me over the phone an increase to GS12 step 4. Can I use this for negotiation for other job offers to increase? No, you're not going to let me finish your question. For other job offers to increase my starting salary for other jobs when I receive my final offer. You're not going to be able to use this when it comes to negotiation. Let me show you really quick what a negotiation. You're going to have to submit a memo. I'm going to go ahead and pop one up so that you can get a look at it. You're going to have to submit a memo, and this is how it's going to look. It's going to look like this: your name, your address, the date, the hiring manager's name, and you're basically going to have to type this up. And what you're emphasizing, the reason why you're getting the step increase is because you're showing you're superiorly qualified. You are a superiorly qualified candidate, and that's why they're going to consider. And it comes to education, part of it, right? Certifications could be part of it. Years of experience. I know a lot of people fall into this category. Years of hands-on experience, and basically all of this stuff right here. That is what they're going to consider when they're making the determination. Now, some agencies, it's nothing personal. Once again, some agencies, they don't have the budget. They want you to come on to their agency, but they're not authorized to do it, especially the smaller ones. There's a lot of smaller and mid-sized agencies, and they don't have it in their budget to negotiate, so they're going to say no. But it's going to come down to local policy and what the executive leadership is pushing down that information. It's always worth trying, but unlike the private sector, I mean, you can't really take an offer and then try to pivot and use it towards another organization, another agency. You're going to have to submit the memo. You can also submit your last pay stub, your last earning statement that shows you were making a lot more. That's another consideration point that you should email the HR representative. All right. Hopefully that helped. All right, let's go back to the questions that were previously submitted. Next question is from ThinkBlue8089, who asks, if I ask for a high step and the final offer is way below that, would they increase it if I can't accept the offer due to financial reasons? And then, okay, we just talked about this. Once again, they're not going to consider your financial situation. They're going to see what they're authorized to do. And if they can't, they're going to let you know that they can't do it. And here's another thing. If you ask for, let's say you have an offer for GS11 and you want GS11 step 6, you want step 6, they come back and say, hey, all we can give you is step 3. At that particular point, you can try to negotiate again, but you are jeopardizing the job offer. So be prepared to walk away. If you try to negotiate more than one time, they could pull it and they can give it to someone else who's waiting. Or if there's no one else waiting, they might continue to negotiate with you, but it's a risk. My main thing is when you're applying to jobs, try to stay away from the GS grades that do not pay enough. For example, if you need say you need 100,000, then you probably shouldn't be applying for GS9. You should apply for GS12. So, I mean, not everybody has that option. I understand because of your area. All right, next question from Change Your Socks, who asked, what is taking so long for FDA to send an offer? I interviewed and they took 3 weeks to contact the references and they still haven't sent an offer after all 4 references gave good backstory. Okay, I know this is frustrating. I was in the same situation multiple times. It's frustrating to wait on a job offer. Many things that can impact it, like we talked about earlier, the HR, the security team, the backlog. What I would do in this situation is every 3 weeks, if there's no progress being done, I would email the person who set up the interview. That's probably the HR specialist that's in charge of your onboarding. Email them every 3 weeks. If you don't hear anything, say, hey, I'm just asking for a status update. I do not think 3 weeks is excessive. I don't think you're pestering them at that point, but it kind of reminds people. Right? There's a lot of distractions. One HR specialist is doing multiple, if not a dozen onboarding, so they can be pulled in a lot of different directions. So it's kind of like a helpful reminder. So every 3 weeks, try to do that. Next question. RJ is 9KO ask. Verbal offers and average time one might receive a tentative job offer. What is the process leading up to it? So verbal offers are not worth anything. They don't technically exist. And I was given a verbal offer one time. I had a hiring manager say, "We're going to extend a job offer to you. Here's my business card. If HR doesn't contact you within 1 week, I want you to call me." He said that. And HR didn't contact me within that week. It actually took like 3 weeks for HR to contact me. So it's frustrating. There's only two types of job offers in the government. There's tentative and then there's final job offer. So if you're not getting one of those two, then the verbal, I wouldn't even put any weight into the verbal job offer. Now, for the entire length of how long it takes to from the beginning when you're starting to apply to when you actually show up on your first day at work, that time period on average is 4 to 6 months. I recently recorded a video, it's not out yet, but it shows you 10 people's hiring path, the journey of 10 different people and how long it took each one of those people. And it shows the GS grade, it shows the agency, and it shows the position. And then I added them all together, I did the average, and it came out to a little over 4 months. Now, the quickest I've seen anyone get hired was 9 weeks, and everything was moving, silky smooth. And the longest has been over a year. But the average, what I will constantly tell people is between 4 and 6 months. Okay, let's see if we have any questions in the chat. This is Turtle Power. Sorry, my last question wasn't clear. I'm currently a GS 11.5 and will get a promotion to GS 12 in November. Oh, okay. What step will I start at? This is for Philadelphia. So in this case, the two-step rule will come into effect. So you're a GS 11 step 5. You would have to look at your current salary as a GS 11 step 5. Look at where that salary starts at the 12, and then you would add 2 steps. So I don't have the pay chart in front of me, but let's just say your salary is the equivalent right now. Your salary is the equivalent of a GS 12 step 2. You would then add 2, so then you would come in as a GS 12 step 4. So there's a two-step promotion rule when it comes to federal employees receiving promotions. So hopefully that helps you out. All right, next question. Ray, how's it going, Armand? It's going great. I'm having a great day. Hopefully you guys are doing the same. Do applicants receive a tentative job offer or even a final job offer without the HR specialist or human resource manager reaching out to the applicant's references? So anything's possible, but the HR specialist would not be doing their job if they didn't reach out to your references. And the reason they do this is to kind of keep people honest, because you can put down you worked everywhere. I worked at Google, and then I moved to Facebook, and then I moved to Microsoft. So they want to make sure you actually work there. If they did not do this, they would not be doing their job. And a lot of people get worked up about references. They're not interviewing your previous supervisor. They just want to make sure you worked at that location for that duration of time. That's what they're looking for. They're not going to say, well, how well did Bob do? Did he do a good job? Is he a good worker? They're not going to ask any questions like that. They're just trying to verify that you actually work there. And a lot of people, they have an issue because they don't remember their supervisor's phone number. So they'll say, well, my supervisor retired and he changed his number. I can't get a hold of him. Well, in that situation, what I would tell you is on the internet, you can research as long as you have the first and last name, maybe the state, you can do some research and try to find their phone number, or you can pick another supervisor at your last job. So let's say you worked in the Army and you had a supervisor. There's another supervisor in the section that's adjacent to you, and they can verify that you work there. So you can put another supervisor. Maybe it wasn't your direct supervisor, but you can put another supervisor that can verify you were there, or maybe even your supervisor's supervisor. I would put somebody there that can attest that you were actually at that place of employment. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. They're supposed to. Now, I'm not saying that they're always going to do it, because sometimes they're really busy and they might not do it, but they should do it. All right. Next question. CR. How many steps increase can I negotiate coming into the federal government? Thanks. All of them. CR, all of them. You can do all the way up to step 10. People have entered in the government, I would say almost every single day. People are coming into the government as a step 10. You just have to make a good case for it. You just have to have the support and documentation. Show them, right? Show them what makes you superior to everyone else. And then, or some people have actually gotten it just on their pay, just because maybe they were a defense contractor earning 160,000 a year, and they're coming in as a GS-13, and the max is 130, and they're like, "Hey, at least give me the max. I'm losing 25K a year, but give me the max. Do that." And then the agency might be willing to negotiate with them like that, so you can get a step 10. All right, VU Gaia. I first started as accepted service, but recently got a firm offer for competitive service. Can accepted service switch to competitive service? Is there any issue with doing that? There's no issue. I don't know how you got that. I don't know what pathway you used. If it was just open to the public, probably. I'm not sure. But you can definitely do that. At any point in time, somebody can get a competitive service job. A person with no government experience can get a competitive service job. The thing is, when you're accepted service, you're not able to use the competitive service hiring path. So if there's a job announcement that's only open to competitive service, you can't apply to that. But if the job announcement is open to everybody, then of course everyone can apply to it, including accepted service. So if it's the same GS grade or higher, I would definitely take that. That will open you up for more promotion potentials, more job opportunities in the future. So that's a great thing. Congratulations on that. Okay, next one, chat exposure. Will you ever go over how to write government contracts effectively? No, I don't really think that falls in the scope of government jobs. I don't know. I don't know exactly what type of government contracts you're referring to. If you're talking to business contracts, small businesses trying to compete for government contracts, probably not. All right, let's see. Did I miss any other questions? All right, here's one. Tierra Barnes. Good morning, Armand. Thank you for your service. Thank you. Have you heard from recent hires how long the security process time period has been taking? Thanks. Yes, Tierra, I actually have a video. It might be 2 or 3 months old, but it goes over exactly the length that people have been experiencing, or what is the average. And oftentimes it's based on the clearance level. So if you're talking about secret, I think it's something up to 120 days, between 60 days and 120 days. A lot of positions, they'll do an initial screening and they will give you what is called an interim clearance. And that basically means off of their initial screening, they didn't find anything wrong. So you have a temporary clearance, and you might be able to do some work using that while you're waiting for your actual clearance to come through. If there's problems in your background and it takes longer than 120 days, a lot of times the agency, I know the Department of State, and I believe some of the agencies under the Department of Justice, they reserve the right to remove your job offer because the clearance process is taking way too long. So that's another thing that you want to consider. If that applies into your situation, it should be worded in the documents that you're filling out. It should be worded exactly what the criteria is. So for a rough frame of reference, I would say 60 to 120 days. Okay. Let's see here. We have Harper. Good morning. Do hiring managers typically request and contact current supervisors for a reference as a formality, or only for those who intend on moving forward with? So, when it comes to contacting your references, most of the time they will do it for individuals they're seriously considering on hiring. So, let's say your average hiring process, they're going to interview, let's say, 6 or 7 candidates. I think that's about right. Between 6 and 8 people. That's how many people they're interviewing. And after the interview, they identify 1, 2, or 3, like, hey, we really like these strong candidates. Let's check references on the top 2 or the top 3. And some of them, if they're lazy, they'll just do it on the top 1. So when you are informed that your references are being checked, that is a strong indicator that you might be the person, or you might be the number 2. And the reason why you have to have a number 2 and number 3 is because people get multiple job offers, especially if you're a strong candidate. If you're a really good candidate, chances are that's not your only job offer. You have like two or three on the table. So they might have identified their number one, but their number one might not want them. So they have to go to the number two. So two or three people are going to have their references checked. So there's a good possibility, a good probability that you will have a job offer extended. I think so. So I think it's a good sign. All right, let's see. One more, another question. Think blue. When they check references, will they tell my current employer that I'm applying for a full-time position with the government? They they're not going to say it in that many words. They're going to say, "Hi, this is, my name is Bob Smith, a human resource specialist with the Social Security Administration, and I want to confirm if this individual has worked at this company from this period to this period." They're going to say that. Now, the person that they're talking to, they might say, "Hey, why do you want to know?" Then it might come out, right? Even if they don't ask, most people are going to have an idea. If a government agency is asking me the dates of employment for this person, that they could be trying to leave. So this is one of the reasons why that on your resume, when you put your supervisor's name and their phone number, you can put may contact, which means it's okay for the agency to contact your supervisor, or you can say contact me first. And when you put contact me first, they should not reach out to your supervisor. They should call you or email you and say, "Hey, this is what we're planning to do." And what you can do in that situation is you can say, "Do not contact my last supervisor. Look at my last job, not the job I have now, but look at my last job. Contact that person because I do not want my employer to know that I'm looking for a job." Many people have done that. That's completely okay as long as they're able to contact the supervisor from your old agency or your old company. So that's what I would do. I would put contact me first on your current supervisor, so that way they don't call them. I know a lot of people don't want to let them know because you know it could go downhill for you in a lot of different ways. Next question, Bobcat Stillwell. Is it okay to list your current supervisor as proof of employment rather than HR? Yes. I mean, I believe in your situation, you're moving within that agency to another office. So, yeah, there should be nothing wrong with that. List your current supervisor. For you, Bobcat, I believe you're in the VA. So your SF50, is going to tell it all that you are currently employed. All right, let's take it back to the questions. All right, next question is from Gen12CO, who asked, "What are your suggestions in getting a GS position when you currently have a position in the WL grade?" WL is worker leader. It's under the WG pay scale. So the WG type job positions, some people refer to them as blue collar, is more in the trades. This individual is currently at the WL10 and they want to get a GS position because of COLA and other benefits. And my pay is equivalent to GS11. When I apply for a GS job, it's difficult to bypass the computerized hiring system when they see I do not have any GS. For someone that works in WG or WL or WS, the first baseline I would look at is try to match your pay. So if you're, like you said, your pay matches a GS11, I would probably look at the GS11s, look at the specialized experience, see if you actually match that, apply for GS11, apply for GS12 if you can swing that. If your experience is strong enough, apply for GS12. There's not a chart that matches WS or WL with GS. There's no chart that compares the two. So they're going to rely off of your experience. Now, a lot of people, they get GS12, GS13, even GS14 with no GS experience. We have people coming out of the military. We got people coming out of corporate America that they jump right into a GS13 or GS14. They've never been a GS. So people can get to the higher ranks of the GS scale without any GS experience. The best use of your time in this situation, I would say, is to just focus on your resume and the positions that you're trying to get. Try to reach out to people that already have those positions, talk to them, see if they would look at your resume, see if you're a good match or if something's missing. A lot of the times when we're not getting referrals or interviews, it's going to come down to the resume in some way. All right. Oh, I still have Bobcat's comment up here for some reason. Okay. All right. Blueface. If a job has no promotion potential and you want to move up, is it worth to take the job if you're not in a hurry or desperate for work? If you're not desperate or if you're not in a hurry, then I would say, sure, take the job. Take the job. When it comes to these ladder positions, they're not they're not as common as people would like to think they are. Maybe 30-40% are ladder positions. The majority of the jobs are not ladder positions. You can always apply after you hit your 12 months or maybe after 18 months. Whenever you feel comfortable with applying, you can apply for your promotion. So it depends on your situation. Okay, I'm going to mispronounce this name. Amitabh Statin ask, in your experience, are most GS-15 positions supervisors, or are there any at the individual contributor level? What agencies like to hire GS-15 at the individual level? I would say most are supervisors in some capacity, but not all. If you're looking for GS-15s that are non-supervisor, you need to look in the big cities. I'm talking about Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, New York City. The reason is because of the grade inflation, because of the cost of living. They have higher GS grades. So I know in Washington, D.C., there's dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of GS-15s that are non-supervisory. You just kind of have to look for them. And you want a place to start? I would start at the largest agencies. So the largest agency is DoD. You can look there. Another big one, like especially in the Pentagon, I think there's quite a few GS-15s in the Pentagon that are not a supervisor of anyone. Look at the VA. Look at Health and Human Services. You can look there. All right. Okay. Vu Gaia. Is it true that accepted service positions from the Army can't apply for accepted service in Air Force? Open to accepted competitive. I was told by my HR my application was denied because my SF-50 was Army. That's interesting. When it comes to who can apply, it's going to say it clearly on the job announcement. For some reason, if they only opened it to accepted within their agency, maybe it was an internal position. That's why they only want people in the Air Force, or excuse me, or the Army. So the answers will be in the job announcement. I would have to have the exact job announcement and read through the who may apply section. Some of these are they're worded very strangely. You can tell when a job announcement is trying to target someone very specific because you'll find very specific systems that you would not learn anywhere. Like there was a Navy position. They wanted you to have specific knowledge on this Navy system as it relates to submarines, and the job was open to the public. And I'm like, okay, maybe if you're a Navy guy, maybe if you're somebody in the Navy, you might have this. Otherwise, you're excluding a large amount of people. So, yeah, that's going to depend. Okay, let's go back to the questions. All right, next question. Ernest Lee 6152. I have an email from a director who said they wanted to hire me for a supervisor position with their revenue team. This was 2 years ago. I've been submitting an application to every opening that team has had and have been referred several times, but I never made it to an interview. Would it be bad to email the HR contact and reference that email? No, you don't want to reference that email. HR can't do anything with that email. This is what you need to do. You have an email from 2 years ago. Find that person that emailed you. Look at them. Look for them on LinkedIn, or if you have them like a social media connection, reach out to them and ask them for 10 or 15 minutes of their time on a weekend. Maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. Have a phone call with them and let them know, hey, reference your previous conversation and talk about the time where he sent you that email and let them know, hey, I've been applying a few times. I'm wondering, is there anything that could make me more competitive? It's like an informational interview where you're just trying to get their perspective and their experience and their advice. And then use that conversation to figure out if there's another way to get the job, right? So that's the way I would take it. I would leave HR completely out of this situation. You don't want to involve them because that's not how it works. You can't show them an email and HR is going to say, "Oh, come on in, let's interview you." It's not how it's going to work. But keep in mind that HR is the gatekeeper. Even If the hiring manager is like, oh, yeah, definitely keep applying. As soon as I see your name, I'm going to interview you. The job is yours. HR is still the gatekeeper. All right. So you're going to have a strong and relevant resume to get through. But it seems like you got through HR the first time because you were actually referred. So if you were getting referred, the hiring manager should be able to interview you. Next question is from D. Michelle. Does the federal government have hiring fairs? Yes, they have hiring fairs. And I'm going to show you where you can find these hiring fairs. So go to USAJobs.gov, scroll down. You see this where it says explore hiring path? Keep on going. Scroll. Then you see events. Click view more events. When you click that, you'll see a filter. You have hiring workshops, you have information sessions, job fairs. There's 22 right now, training events. So USAJobs.gov, they actually host training. They'll do training on resumes. They'll do training on interviewing. So it's kind of helpful just to see what's available. Let's look at job fairs. We're going to scroll down. You're going to see, look, TSO. This is TSA. You want to be a TSA officer? You attend this. This is actually in Michigan. So most of these will be virtual still, but some of these are actually in person. This one's in Michigan, Grand Rapids. Look at the IRS. IRS. This is in Washington State. Then we have another one. This is IRS veterans and Schedule A job fair. So if you're a vet or you have a Schedule A letter and you're in Washington State, this is all you. June 1st, be there at 9 in the morning. You can register. You just click to register to attend. Click more details, you'll be able to register. Here's USDA. This is in California. Okay. This is another TSA event. Let's go try to find one that's actually virtual. This one's virtual. The SEC. Who wants to work at the SEC? The SEC is a great place to work. Here's the deal with the SEC and FDIC. This is like a corporation that the government owns. They pay higher than GS. The FDIC, for example, they pay CG. CG 15, it goes over $200,000 a year. So don't ignore the financial corporations that are government owned. This is online too. You can attend this June 6th. What do you do on June 6th? Can you make it? Click this. Click, see more details. So this is only open to veterans and people with disabilities. That's the caveat with this one. But keep looking through here. Here's U.S. Forest, if you're in California. IRS Buffalo, in person, direct hiring. You want to go to Buffalo? Go to Buffalo. They might have interviews on the spot there. Okay, so you just keep looking down here. A lot of people don't know this exists. It's kind of hidden at the bottom of USA Jobs. So keep this in mind, keep looking at it, see what's available in your area, and then apply when you can apply. All right. So, oh, that's your question right here, Frenchie Mom. That was the question we just went over. Okay. Oh, here we go. Dixon, what do you think about the 0105 series going into SSA? Going into well, as we know, SSA is struggling right now, but it could be a good opportunity. I don't really know anybody who's in the let me see, what did you say? 0105? Is that what it is? 0105. So 0105 is the Social Insurance Administration. Yeah. I don't know if your experience applies. I know SSA is eager to hire. They're understaffed right now. So as long as you have a solid resume, you should be able to get to at least the interview stage. If those opportunities are around you, you want to jump on it, you have relevant experience, I would say go for it. Do not let the ranking list scare you or to deter you from this type of opportunity. Go ahead and apply. All right. Next question. L Mac. Good morning. Thanks for all that you do. This channel has really helped me. I'm glad it has helped you out. I have 68 applications in and I'm applying daily. I have 8 applications that have been referred and had 2 interviews. Thanks. Oh, you're welcome. This wasn't really a question. Hey, a way that you can tell if your resume is working, you should have between a 50 and 60% referral rate. So if you put in 100 applications, 50 to 60 should be referred. And from there, about 20 to 25% should result in interviews. So if that's not happening for you, got to give it time too, right? It's not going to happen overnight or from one week to the next. It's going to happen over a period of months. But if you're not seeing those type of numbers, you need to relook at your resume. Okay, next question. After a job offer, do you immediately send the hiring manager an email with your accolades, education, experience, certifications, pay stub to negotiate an increase or call and okay, or call and speak to them? CR, what I would tell you is you would do it through email, and as soon as you get the tentative job offer, accept it. After you have accepted the tentative job offer, that's when it starts. You send them the memo. Send them the memo, send them your pay stub or your last earning statement, and let them know in the body of the email that your intent is to negotiate the step level. So that's how I would handle that situation. All right, let's go back to the questions. Next question from RJ, who asks, what are the reasons some agencies ask for references before the interview? This is uncommon, but check it out. When it comes to asking for references before the interview, the agency is trying to be proactive because we just heard from one guy who said that it took 3 weeks after the interview to do the reference check. So some agencies are actually trying to expedite the hiring process. So if you don't have many people interviewing, say you have like 4 people interviewing, the supervisor might say, "Hey, do reference checks on all of them." So in that case, you might have one before the interview. I don't really like that because that's not really an indicator to me. To me, an indicator is after I did the interview, they liked my performance, and now they're checking references. But I would look at it as the agency is trying to be proactive. That's how I would look at it. Next question. Ronald Joseph 8047 asks, I have a bachelor degree in accounting and a certification as a certified fraud examiner. I also have 25 years working as an accountant and auditor. I would like to apply for the revenue agent position with the IRS in Massachusetts. What would my pay grade? What would be my pay grade? So IRS is hiring a lot this year, and a lot of it has to do with the $80 billion that they received. They're trying to expand, and it's not just revenue agents, pretty much everybody. If you want to work in admin, you want to work in HR, they're hiring like over 100 HR positions. If you go to USA Jobs right now, let's go to USA Jobs actually. If you go to USA Jobs, you can see there's a lot of positions there. But with the revenue agents, I think with that, you're going to, a lot of them are internal for some weird reason. That doesn't make much sense to me, but we're going to look at it. Revenue agent. Okay. So there's over 100. Look at this right here. You see these little icons? This is internal. That means if you're not in the IRS, they don't want you to apply. And this is if you're displaced. So a lot of these positions, look at it, GS14, GS14. If you're a senior revenue agent, you're looking at GS14. Now, if you're a regular revenue agent, it's probably like around GS12, I would imagine 12 or 13. Most of these are GS14s. Okay, so let's look at open to the public. I don't know if you're in the government already or if you're not, but open to the public, there's only 8. So it went from over 100 to just 8. But we have some direct hire. Direct hire is good if you do not want to compete with veterans, because this means there's an urgent need and they do not need to recognize veteran preference. So you can register 12-month. This is kind of low, 5 to 12. If you're willing to take a GS12, it's still kind of on the low end for somebody with 25 years of experience, but it's a possibility. This is an examiner, actually. With these 12-month registers, you will be considered multiple times. So even if you don't make the first, second, or third cut, you could end up getting it, on the 4th look. So it's a good use of your time to apply for these. Here you go. You have a revenue agent. This is on the IR pay band. So you would have to look to make sure that's on the competitive service if you care about that. So yeah, I would say if you're not in the government right now, maybe GS12. This one, well, that's the Department of Air Force. Yeah, maybe GS12. But I would, save the job filter and keep looking back to it. All right. LMAC. Can you explain direct hire authority? My interview was last week was under this authority, and they advised that they will have their decision by this week. So, direct hire authority, the agency has to show a critical shortage, or it's really difficult to hire people in that geographical area. So, if they're in a smaller town and the talent's not there, they can have the position classified as direct hire authority. And that, in theory, allows them to expedite the hiring because they can bypass certain OPM job rules or certain OPM rules. But when I see people get hired in direct hire authority, it takes roughly the same. Even though it's designed to move quicker, a lot of times you're still looking at 4 months, roughly somewhere around there, 4 to 6 months. The good thing, like I mentioned earlier, is that if you're not a veteran, you don't have to worry about a veteran bumping you off. Like if you're just as qualified as a veteran, you're going to receive a fair consideration. The other special hiring paths shouldn't get in your way, as long as you have the skills necessary to perform that job. You have to be qualified, obviously. So that's good that they told you they will have their decision by this week. And then also another thing, while you're waiting to hear back from the agency, keep applying. Just try to completely forget about the interview. Don't just sit there idly and wait, because that's the worst thing. Keep trying, give yourself more opportunities, apply, apply, apply. All right. Let's look and see what other questions that we have. Okay, we have Karen says, I have been offered a GS5 position with my experience. I feel I should be a GS7 at least. How can I expedite this promotion? Okay, I'm assuming that you applied for the GS5. If you know your experience is at the GS7 level, then I wouldn't apply for anything lower than GS7. If there is no promotion ladder, then it's going to take as long as you want it to take after 12 months. So if you accept a GS5 and you want to get promoted to GS6, after 12 months, you start applying. Then you get the job probably 4 to 6 months later. So let's say 18 months. It would take 18 months to go from 5 to 6. From 6 to 7, another 18 months. I'm adding in the time it actually takes to go through the hiring process once again, unless you have a promotion ladder position. So agencies cannot negotiate the GS grade. And there's some jobs that have the ladder, and they will ask you, do you want to be considered for GS5? You click no. Do you want to be considered for GS7? Yes. Do you want to be considered for GS9? Yes. So that's a way to kind of just circumvent that whole process of you're going to interview and you really want a GS9, but they're interviewing you for a GS5. That could be really frustrating. Okay, let's see what else we have. Another question from Karen. Does the process of investigation and fingerprinting take the same amount of time as regular hiring? Do they call employers or check credit report? This is in reference to direct hiring. And that's the thing about direct hiring. The whole thing is set up to go faster, but it's still going to rely on the things I talked about earlier: HR, the backlog, and the security team. How fast are they moving? You will still need to do the fingerprinting. Every federal employee that comes in, they will still have a credit check fingerprinting. And some agencies, depending on what position and what agency, some of them have drug tests. So that's another thing that you have to consider. A lot of that is standard with a lot of these government jobs. All right. If you about Staten, if you received a job with a tentative job offer and the job posting said recruitment incentive may be authorized, how would you ask for it and leave your current job only once all signatures approved? So the time to ask for this is as soon as you accept the tentative job offer. You accept the tentative job offer, just like you would negotiate salary, you would also bring that into conversation and ask what they're able to do with recruitment incentive. So, it's going to be based on the agency, their budget, what position is it slotted for, and a lot of that stuff. You're going to have to dig a little bit into the handbook, to the rules, to figure out what calculation are they using to give you that incentive. Like for a relocation expense, I think it's ×4 of your monthly salary. It could be up to that amount. So if you're getting $5,000 a month, then ×4 is $20,000. So that would be the max for relocation in certain circumstances. Speaking of a question from Ali Jones, speaking of direct hire, is it normal to be extended a tentative job offer without an interview? This happened to me twice in a matter of a few weeks. Is it normal? It happens. It happens all the time. It's more normal for lower grade positions. So if you're GS9 or below, I would say it's more normal. If it's GS11 or above, it's a little less common, but it does happen. And most people are happy when it happens. Um, one more question. One more question here, brah. Is it true that certain DoD agencies rarely promote, even if it is a ladder position? I heard it's common in the intelligence community to be stuck in a grade for a while. I've known people that were stuck in a grade for over 10 years. It comes down to your supervisor and how proactive are you being. If you are really trying to do your best, you're communicating with, it comes down, a lot of it's communication. You have to communicate with your supervisor, let them know, I'm interested, I'm eligible for this, and I'm interested in this. Let's get together and come up with a path in order for me to attain this objective. That's what the supervisor is there for. He's there for some level of mentorship. And him or her should be able to work with you to get there. So the DoD is such a large agency, it's hard to say is it normal. You have DoD all over the country, all over the world, and there's, tens of thousands of supervisors. Some of them have, toxic personalities. Some of them have more receptive personalities. So it's going to depend on who you fall underneath. But you can get promoted. There's people that just rocket right up the promotion ladder. All right. All right. Wow, we have over 30 people here. That's a first for this stream. Over 30 people. That's amazing. Thank you guys for spending your time with me. I want to remind everybody, I do have a government job course that helps you structure a resume. There's should be a link in the description below. Also, there's templates that you can download to help modify and improve your resume to make it more competitive to get referrals and interviews. You can also schedule a call with me by the link in the description below. So make sure to check that out. I also have a free newsletter that comes out every month where I try to provide more insight, different types of experiences, and you can register for that down. It's completely free. Thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate all the support. Please like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate it all. I have one more question, and then that would probably be it. Blueface, how does having different resumes affect your equip and background investigation after being selected for position? I've been told the resume must match the equip. So when you're applying for a job, you're doing it on one resume. You could have 5 resumes in USAJobs.gov, but you're attached to your application is just one resume. So when they're doing the equip, when you're going through the equip process, they're using that one resume that you attached for that one job that you applied to. That's what they're basing it off of. And it should try to match equip. A little inconsistency is not going to send the red flag up. So don't worry about that. Alvin, thanks for your service and your informative videos. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate everyone coming out here. And this has been great. This has been wonderful. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. And I will see you in the next one.